What is a famous movie that you cannot understand the appeal of? I really dislike the current DC film universe, with the exception of the first WW movie. That's really sad for me, because I loved the DC animated universe of the 90s and 2000s. I love comic characters in general. I think I'm just bummed out that they managed to break down a lot of the comics into only action-based movies. The Batman movies in particular I really disliked. He's the world's greatest detective, so where's the mystery and detective stuff? I feel like they left out a lot of character traits for the heroes in the film adaptations. The Last Jedi, I remember seeing reviews and watchers say it was fantastic, so was looking forward to seeing it. While it does have enjoyable moments, I enjoyed the Luke and Rey training. A lot of it felt dull or even bad at points. The mutiny story was dumb. Why withhold a viable escape plan? Finn and Rose on that gambling planet to find a code breaker was boring and pointless in the end, and seeing Leia fly through space with the Force was just ridiculous. I was kind of glad Rian Johnson left Star Wars after that movie. Insidious and Conjuring universe. I don't get why people would love a horror so much when it's just based on jump scares. Also, Conjuring is like a quilt built from other classic movie ideas. It's so derivative, and based on jump scares again. Also them being super loud. No thank you. If you want to scare me, please build actual suspense and make a good story. The whole Conjuring universe is trash. Aside from maybe Annabelle Creation, which was at least genuinely interesting. Every single Marvel movie, there are one or two exceptions, like Ragnarok, but generally speaking they're not well made, not well directed, not particularly well acted, and typically written so shittily it's almost impressive. They're good action movies for people who have never actually seen a good action movie. They're stuffed with military propaganda. Like a lot of American movies, they receive funding and equipment from the military in exchange for letting them edit the script, manipulate how the military is portrayed. Really common in movies. It's why you almost never get an anti-war movie with a big budget and decent equipment anymore. I actually used to be a huge comic book fan, and I was really into the first few movies. I was seriously hype about future prospects. But they've managed to release what is basically the same fucking movie about 20 times now, and it gets eaten up with a spoon. I hate how it dominates pop culture. I hate the way people who would have happily bullied someone for liking comic books in school now get fucking weird with you if you say you don't like the MCU. I hate those movies. Also, after working in a cinema for nearly 2 years, Marvel fans are some of the most repugnant creatures in the history of gross customers, worse than pretty much any of the other franchise fans by a good long mark. Every single screening of Endgame was cake and filth by the end of it. We had to deal with more complaints about physically disgusting customers. So fucking smelly people in a 3-4 seat radius would ask for refunds or to be moved seat screen than any other movie. Full-grown adults would throw full-grown temper tantrums that they couldn't bully their way into sold-out showings to see the film for the 5th time in a week. For fucking Endgame, a movie so bad I physically cringed several times when I was forced to watch it. Sometimes we had to sit in the screens for health and safety reasons, depending on what type of showing it is. The last Star Wars trilogy, a visual masterpiece and a master shit at the same time. The new movies don't bring anything new to the table. The writing was shit. It was very badly received, and Mandalorian just did everything better. If I wanted to see someone stick their arm in the ass of the most beloved franchise of my childhood and play with the corpse, I would have watched porn, cause at least that would be impressive. The Shining. Cinematography, great. Acting, great. It's just plodding Q&D nonsensical. I really don't appreciate movies that leave you with, well, figure it out after the credits run. I'd like to watch a whole movie, thank you very much. Maybe I hyped it up since I only saw it for the first time a couple of years ago, and maybe all the shocking moments have been parodied to death, so it took away from the experience for me. I just don't get why it's this all-godly mainstream horror, psychological experience. I have kind of an issue with Silence of the Lambs. I really want to watch that movie entirely because I know that it's iconic and basically a little shiny pearl in the horror, thriller genre, but holy fuck, I never resist the urge to literally fall asleep in the middle of it. Like, I've tried but nothing works. I sleep like a baby with this movie. Hopkins' voice is soothing as hell. Also, every superhero movie, I liked them in the early 2000s because they were fun and goofy and I was a kid. Now it looks like they washed away all the fun and leave room to this non-stop rambling about stuff. People are all serious as fuck and nothing funny happens. They take themselves too seriously. Boring people, politics, bad-looking chaotic action scenes and silly fake-looking superhero suits. I don't get the appeal of biopics in general. I've seen a few and they just don't interest me. They somehow all have the same plot and they are never accurate. I don't mind historical films about certain people during a specific event or time period, Hidden Figures, but I don't see what is interesting about a fictional version of some celebrity's life, Bohemian Rhapsody. Even if they were accurate, I don't think that a lifetime of random events smashed together in 2 hours makes for a good movie. It's just a series of interconnected scenes. It's not really a story, it's just a bunch of stuff. I guess that's why they fudge the details and sacrifice accuracy to make a story, but either way I find them a bit boring and shallow. I'm going to say the most controversial thing on Reddit. Star Wars, just the whole Star Wars franchise. I think it's mainly just how a movie about space wizards has been so oversold that the franchise lost its soul to an empire, ironically, of corporate cash grabbing, that most fans would be so surprised of the mere thought that there are some people out there who are not obsessed with it. It just got annoying in my opinion. I have seen the original film, a prequel, one of the reboots, or copy-paste a remake, let's be real, and an animated Clone Wars show. All of them, very much reference to Helen back in other media like some kind of religious text. And I like fantasy and sci-fi content, just none of the characters and most of the incredibly average plots. It's getting old. My Neighbor Totoro. I really enjoy Ghibli movies, but this one wasn't it for me. If I had to recommend a Ghibli movie, there are way better ones I would recommend, like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service, or Grave of the Fireflies. Yes, I understand it's made for kids, but that movie came out in 1988 liters. The US release was 1993, which was 10 years before I was born for OG release and 5 years before I was born for the US release, and I did watch it when I was a child and several times afterwards. Didn't like it as a child and don't like it now as an adult. The Favorite. I saw it in the cinema on release and noticed that the only people laughing at the comedy were doing so in a really fake way. It's not as clever or funny as it thinks it is. The characters have no depth, except the Queen, the endless fisheye shots are pretentious, and the soundtrack apes John Greenwood so much it's painful. 2 hours of misery which Olivia Colman was too good for. I'm happy she won the Oscar because she is genuinely great, but fuck that film into the sun. I cannot think of any movies where I cannot see why their fans love them, but there are quite a few that I definitely do not like, many others do. Near the top of the list are lots of horror movies where there is no real plot, just lots of atmosphere leading up to shock moments. The problem is my mind just sees the way the director is trying to build tension for the shock, gets bored and thinks so get on with it. The Blair Witch Project comes right at the top of that list. I get why people like it, I can even appreciate the cinematography and artistry, but really, I find it obvious and boring. The Shining, it's one of the worst film adaptations I know about. It's not really scary and they left a ton of the good parts out. That's totally understandable though, that's just how movie adaptations are. Of course they can't fit everything there, that's just what I think. Anyway, but the portrayal of the characters is so shitty. Man, Jack has no depth. And you can clearly see that he's the psycho bad guy after the first sentence he sputters out. Danny is not the curious, smart little kid he was supposed to be, just a normal one. And Wendy, you guys know how she is, a stupid bitch who can't do anything to defend herself and scream. In the book she's so much better and deeper, just like Danny and Jack. And Tony, I understand that editing was probably harder then. But they could have done literally anything other than make him some stupid finger parrot. Ruined the movie for me. All of the Marvel films, started with Iron Man 1 and 2, saw the first Avengers and thought ... this is basically a Saturday morning superhero show episode with a budget. I haven't even seen Endgame of Infinity War, and I predicted exactly how they would go. Because those films just don't do anything new or risky. I remember seeing reviews for Infinity War, people going OMG this movie is dark, it has real consequences, OMG how will the next movie go, and I thought ... let me guess, everyone and their mother is gonna come back. I was right. Avatar, the James Cameron one, I don't know why I would even have to clarify that. But I feel like I do. I refuse to watch this. A lot of people point out the flaw in my argument, which is the trailer tells you exactly how the story will end, and yeah, that can be said for a lot nowadays, but I just didn't see the appeal of sitting through a 2.5 hour movie that's been made before to go see this to become a blue alien. I get it wasn't the story so much as the technology Cameron came up with to make the movie, but I will still refuse to watch it. I've taken classes in college where we had to watch it for a test and I still didn't watch it. I didn't even read a synopsis, and fuck him for re-releasing it because he wanted to stay on top of Avengers Endgame, a superhero movie. Everything culminated to that point in that series and I feel like it was deserved. Doctor, I refuse to watch James Cameron's Avatar. Honestly, this is going to get super downvoted, but most Disney movies, I feel like adults who are obsessed with Disney just haven't tried anything else. Like every movie is super formulaic, Disney is not going to do anything really brave or controversial or different. And of course every story has a happy ending because it's for kids. The movies that feel most memorable to me are ones that are a lot more nuanced, slower, open to interpretation, with real adult or historical or complex themes. Haha, it's not bad to want to watch a fun movie, but for grown adults who make Disney like part of their personality and won't watch anything else, it's weird. I don't get it, it's like a cult. Beetlejuice, boring, unfunny, and I really don't see why the dance is considered to be so iconic. Groundhog Day, even more boring. I get that it was the same day repeated ... but my god, it makes a terrible film to rewatch the same scene over and over. The Shining, far too slow for me and not enough happened to make me want to wait and feel the tension. Ended up fast forwarding it and watching the more iconic scenes, the National Lampoon ones. Unfunny and cranny. Lord of the Rings and Star Wars fell asleep in both and have never felt the urge to try and re-watch. Think they're Marmite films. Love or hate, you're either into them or not. I love Harry Potter but couldn't get into either lot or Star Wars. I know some massive Star Wars fans and one is a 55-year-old guy with grown-up children who can link anything back to something in Star Wars. Like talking about going for a dog walk and you can guarantee there's a lesson in Star Wars he can link back to. Yawn. I tried to record and watch some but you must have seen films and so far, yet to feel I've missed out. I just don't really get Movies. I keep trying to like them. There are a lot that interest me, but they're just so bloody long. I find them as a whole kind of boring. I will occasionally watch a film with a friend, but there is basically always something else I would rather be doing. I socialize over activities or food, or just spend time having conversations. Alone I read a lot, cook, make, play music and stuff. On screens I look at memes and research stuff I'm interested in. Movies just don't get a look in on my life. A 20-minute YouTube video is usually the longest thing I'll watch. Honestly, I hated The Mist. Yup, the SK one that everybody loves to jerk. Mind you, I love his other work, but this one just didn't do it for me. My brother and I both agree that it is the worst movie ever, because the bar was set so high for it. I think it started alright, and have no problem with the acting, but the monsters, the crazy people, like the Christian woman, the whole thing about people getting to know each other and pretend like they are about each other in like a day, ridiculous sci-fi explanations that make no sense to me. Most of the characters are complete dumbasses. Don't even get me started about the big reveal of an ending, and how it was trying to portray some sort of message. A lot of people on here hating the Fast and Furious series. That's low-hanging fruit. It's mindless, unbelievable, fantastical nonsense. So is the Lord of the Rings. The only difference is that the Fast and Furious movies and their fanbase isn't taking itself seriously. While I'm not a fan in least of the Fast movies, and I enjoy the Lord of the Rings movies, they are both the same in the sense that you have to let go to enjoy either one. If you're going into the JCVD classic Double Impact expecting The Godfather, you're going to be pretty mad at the end. But if you go into it looking for a compy 90s action flick, it's an all-time great film. BTW, movies that sucked at what they were trying to be. The Hangover as a comedy, American Beauty as something should be competing for a Best Picture award, and Black Panther as a superhero movie. With the exception of Empire Strikes Back, which I consider very good and enjoyable, every single Star Wars movie has been mediocre at best. A New Hope was kinda boring. It was saved by stellar SFX, and in the editing room, Jedi is just a mess. It's very clear that it was directed by two people, one of them being George Lucas. I see the prequels as some of the worst movies ever made, and of the Disney Star Wars movies, I've only seen The Force Awakens, which was just a bad remake of A New Hope with bigger everything, and Rogue One, which was alright, watchable, but mediocre. Star Wars was made great by the EU, not the movies. Disney shot themselves in the foot by declaring all of it legends and non-canon. The MCU, there wasn't a single movie I actually enjoyed and got invested in, from Captain America to Endgame. Maybe Thor 3 a bit, but I don't really remember it. I can't connect to the characters, the storyline isn't interesting, and the movies themselves are usually ugly. I like Doctor Strange's visuals, and Spider's movies are brighter and more visually appealing than the rest, but other than that it was pretty meh. For the whole time I watched those I felt like I was just forcing myself to keep watching. I didn't get invested for even a minute. This entire thread is people just stating movies they don't like. I can understand the appeal of something I don't like to other people and our target audiences. You might not be into high fantasy, but it's not hard to see why people would be into Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. You're not 10 years old, but if you show a 10-year-old boy the Goonies, they'll love it. I don't like The Big Lebowski, but I understand the appeal of it. You'll just hear hating. La La Land, people compare it to Demi, which is a slap in the face to Demi. Gosling and Stone are not talented dancers or singers, why cast them in a musical? The story is not compelling, and just because a few scenes had interesting lighting does not mean the cinematography was good. I can't comprehend why it gets so much love. All of Tarantino's work is pretty overrated. Watching movies like The Good, The bad, and the ugly and Lady Snowblood that he heavily draws from made me realize that the things I liked best about his work were straight ripped from better, more original movies. The Shining. It's one of the worst film adaptations I know about. It's not really scary and they left a ton of the good parts out. That's totally understandable though. That's just how movie adaptations are. Of course they can't fit everything there. That's just what I think. Anyway, but the portrayal of the characters is so shitty. Man, Jack has no depth. And you can clearly see that he's the psycho bad guy after the first sentence he sputters out. Danny is not the curious, smart little kid he was supposed to be, just a normal one. And Wendy, you guys know how she is, a stupid bitch who can't do anything to defend herself and scream. In the book she's so much better and deeper, just like Danny and Jack. And Tony, I understand that editing was probably harder then. But they could have done literally anything other than make him some stupid finger parrot. Ruined the movie for me.